Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming and spending the evening of Mother's Day with us. We're very honored that you would come and share your company and engage in the glorification of Radha and Krishna with us. We always begin with an invocational song asking for the blessings of Radha and Krishna. If you know the song, please sing along. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Srila Prabhupada Ki. My name is Rajendranandana Prabhu. Many of you know me. Some of you, you're new faces, and like I say, I'm very happy to have your company. Hopefully you'll hear some words that have some resonance within you. We're going to talk about Krishna. We're going to talk about love. Before I start anything, I'd like to say some prayers to my spiritual master and our lineage of teachers, and ask for their blessings. And I hope while you chant along with me that you will also pray for their blessings, that I might be able to serve you by speaking according to their desire. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Salakya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Disatarane Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. that you say, Krishnamurti? All right. My wife's name is Chatura Devi Dasi. I'm very fortunate to have a wonderful mate in this world, a wife, a friend, a god sister. She's the mother of my child, our child. Aj is his name. Some of you know him. And the very first time she came to the LA temple, the Harekrishna temple, she met a devotee, a lady, and this devotee was very fired up. Now I want to put a little context here. This was in the early 70s, and most of the people who were participating in our movement were very young, and they also had a very enthusiastic spirit. As we say, she was fired up. But sometimes in our enthusiasm, we might say something in trying to glorify the Lord or share some reality, some truth about life, and we may discourage someone. It happens. I'm speaking from experience. And there's nothing worse than discouraging somebody from trying to serve the Lord, be enlivened to serve the Lord, to realize one's potential in life and one's relationship with those who are dear to the Lord. This young devotee, she goes, there's no love in this material world. And Chatura, at the time when she heard that, she thought, that lady's crazy. If this is what they believe, I don't want to even go near this place. And so she walked away, and she was walking down the sidewalk, and another devotee saw what had happened, and he immediately ran after her and said, wait, what's going on? Where are you going? And she told her, I just heard that you believe there's no love in this world. He said, no, she's got it all wrong. Forgive me. Forgive her, please. And he started to present some of the understanding of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of us as eternal living beings, and that we all have an eternal relationship with Him. And the medium of that relationship is love. Now, love is a word in this world that really does get spread pretty thin. I mean, people abuse the heck out of the word love. I love my fountain pen. I love my dog. I love my car. I love the Padres. I love my country. I love my wife, my children. Now, when you start getting closer, family and friends and this and that, then it starts having a little bit more meaning, most likely a little bit more substance to it. What the young lady was trying to communicate very inexpertly, and I hope I'll be able to do a better job, is that we hold love, the definition of love, to a very high standard. Love, of course, means that there's two people at least involved in the reciprocation. The lover, love, and the beloved. Sometimes in Sanskrit we say bhakta, bhakti, and bhagavan. You have a servant or devotee, the loving devotional service, and Krishna, the supreme spiritual person. So it always takes two. Sometimes people have an elementary understanding of spiritual life, and they think that God is love, or they think that God is all one. And there is truth to both statements, but you can't take away the lover and the beloved from the complete understanding of Krishna being love. If you do, there's no meaning to love. If it's just a substance, or there's no relationship. So to lay down some basic understanding or context, I'm going to read a little bit of a purport to a verse that Srila Prabhupada wrote in 1960. This is before he came to America, and it appeared in a Back to Godhead magazine that he was writing at the time. And it's to a verse. I'm just going to read the first line of the verse, Akila Rasamrita Murti, which means that Krishna is the reservoir of pleasure in all devotional relationships. He's the reservoir. He's the source. He's the origin of all loving relationships. And relationships, there are different types. According to the science of Krishna consciousness, there are 5 essential, very important relationships that you can have with the Supreme Person. For that matter, to some extent, you can experience it in this material world. You have servitude, a servant. You have, I should have said, some awe and reverence. Not much reciprocation, but I'm very much impressed by, overwhelmed by. I really appreciate someone. That's called neutrality. Then there's servitorship. You realize, oh, let me offer some pleasing activities for the pleasure of this person. Then an improvement in that, or growing upon that, is friendship. There's still service. In fact, in all the last 4 relationships of love, it's always got the foundation of service. And that's how we define the high definition of love, is that it means selfless service to someone without any expectation in return. I love you, I want to please you. And that's one's sole purpose in reciprocating with the person and offering activities of pleasure. Now, you don't see that very often in this world. After friendship, more developed, more complex, and more intimate is parenthood, which will dovetail into Mother's Day. There's service, there's intimacy of friendship, and the parent, certainly in the beginning years of the child's life, they're completely protecting and providing for that child. Their whole interest is trying to see that this child develops into the potential that is available for that child. It's a very very intimate and very important relationship for the development of any balanced individual. We all know that if the dad's gone, it gets pretty rough. I can speak from personal experience. Or you get the idea. And then lastly, the conjugal relationship of lover and beloved. That's the most intimate. And it contains all the other lower relationships. Like sometimes young, immature men, they're looking for a mommy when they're trying to enter into a relationship with a woman. And that's all they know. They didn't have a father figure, and they want, someone to find my shoes for me and wash my clothes, and you get the idea. Most of the earliest part of a parent-child's relationship, at least from the child, it's all about gimme, gimme. For a long, long time, it's gimme, gimme. And the parents will try to give what is good for the well-being of the child. They're happy to give, especially mothers. Srila Prabhupada said that in this world, the closest thing you're going to find to that selfless love that is found in the eternal living entity reciprocating with the Supreme Person, Krishna, is in motherhood. The mothers can be selfless. A mother who is actually loves her child, and there's been so many instances, they would give their life up in a heartbeat if it would save the life of their child, and they wouldn't even think twice about it. Selfless service and love. It's getting to the point that you don't see it as often as, I've been around longer than some of you. It's getting, motherhood, or even respect in general for superiors is not something that is really, that our culture is well known for. Children are not learning respect for their teachers. They may not learn respect for their parents, superiors or elders or what have you. It's really sad. Some of us can look back and know that things were a bit different some decades back. And anyway, it is such a tragedy to what our culture has come to. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be in a woman's body. That's how we say it philosophically. We're spirit soul. We're inhabiting a body. We give life to the dead matter that is this body. I can remember when my mother passed away, or passed on if it helps to communicate the understanding properly. And I went and I bowed down to kiss her forehead. And it was like a, what's that substance? Like a hard rubber. Her body was like I had it earlier when I was thinking about it. It starts with a P. But, my mother wasn't there. She was gone, obviously. The body was there. The body I'd always seen, that I'd received so much guidance and affection and love from, who, given so much to me. She was gone. The body was there. So I can't imagine what it's like to be in a woman's body these days. I really can't. Because I know, practically speaking, you just step out the door and you go on the street and it's like there are a ton of male dogs just ready to sniff you, to exploit you, to abuse you, objectify you, etc. And, that's a tragedy. Any male who does that to any female obviously did not receive the nurturing that would, from a mother and a father, that would have helped them understand, are you crazy? This is how you're going to treat a woman? And I know it's so very challenging. In the Vedic culture, from which our philosophy comes from, you can say, using normal usage of the language, or we could say it the other way, culture that is based upon society and culture that's based upon the understanding and the truth of Krishna consciousness, from the very earliest age, you're taught that the priorities in life are to develop personal qualities. Not to make money, not to enjoy the pleasures of this world. Most important is to learn the good qualities that are innately within everyone, but have to be uncovered and have to be nurtured and practiced. And respect is one that should be held for everybody. And to hammer the point home for a male to the females, a student in the Krishna conscious culture is taught that you should see all women as your mother. Now, if you have a relationship of love, respect, and gratitude for your mother, then you have maybe a chance to try and aspire for that. If you don't, if you were nurtured on the TV and Nintendo games or whatever, it might be a little bit more difficult. But anyway, some context here. This is the material world. It's a place where wayward, eternal beings who want to give a shot at enjoying aside or outside of the relationship of love and service to Krishna are allowed to congregate and give it their best shot. It's called a relative world. It's temporary and sure is fraught with different sufferings and misery. I think we all can accept that. I just said my mother's passed away, so that was temporary relationship, and it brought a lot of pain. I didn't realize how much pain it would bring me because I have a kind of Saturnian nature, and I'm a little bit detached in certain ways. I would see my mother every few years. We would talk on the phone every few months, and we were very tight when we connected. But when she did pass away, when my brother gave me the news, then it hit me. I don't have her company anymore. And the thoughts of what I benefited from her really came cascading down upon me. And so it's a world that is temporary and full of miseries. And this is the relative world. It's like a shadow of the absolute world that Krishna reigns, where Krishna reigns. It's a kingdom of love. This is a land of justice, a land of karma. When we exploit and take and don't engage in activities that are based upon love, then we have to learn a lesson. And usually it's the hard way. We have to suffer. But it's meant with a formative purpose. It's not vindictive or cruel. It's just that we need to cleanse our heart, turn our life around, and understand we have an eternal relationship with Krishna. Now, whatever he desires takes place automatically by the arrangement of his different unlimited, inconceivable potencies, his energies. But materially, we can falsely pose ourselves as the master, and being baffled in that attempt, such a servant desires to annihilate his existence by becoming one with the Lord. You'll hear this in spiritual circles sometimes. Let me become Brahman. Let me become God. One God, we're all God. This desire of becoming one with the Lord is not even within the jurisdiction of the neutral relationship, because there is no reciprocation. And therefore, except for the 5 main rasas, all other relationships are exhibited outside the spiritual realm. But his oneness is transcendently realized in the 5 primary rasas, and that oneness with God is in quality. It's through the medium of love. Because in the absolute realm there is constant reciprocation of the primary rasas between the Lord and his eternal reciprocators or eternal servants. Qualitatively, there's no difference between the Lord and the servants. In the absolute realm, there's no difference between Radha and Krishna, between Yasoda. Yasoda is the mother. She's pictured in this picture here. Krishna is running to embrace his mother after having taken the calves out to pasture. Qualitatively, it's all based on love. They're both eternal. They're both full of knowledge. They're full of bliss. And they are simply trying to please each other. So in this way, there's no difference. The reciprocators in the absolute realm and in the relative world are essentially qualitatively one and the same, but quantitatively there is difference between them, namely the Lord and his servants. The Lord is the immense supply, source of all relationships, while the living entities are recipients, only in their different capacities. In other words, the Lord is the whole, while his servants are constitutional parts and parcels only. The parts and parcels have therefore limited potency to enjoy. This is something that Mrs. Madan asked me to say. Next time you speak, please mention to everybody the only way you're going to find happiness is when you offer service to the Lord, please him, and he's happy. Make him happy, we become happy. This is what Srila Prabhupada just said. We have a limited potency to enjoy, and that's the way we can access the happiness within. And as such, the parts and parcels of the Lord cannot actually be said to be an enjoyer in the proper sense of the term. Such reciprocators of the relationships are therefore properly termed as the enjoyed, are the servant partaker of the enjoyment enjoyed by the Lord. Although the ras of a relationship of reciprocation is equally partaken both by the Lord and his servants, the Lord is the predominator, enjoyer, while the parts and parcels are predominated and enjoyed. Real enjoyment of the living entity is realized in that way only. This constitutional position of the parts and parcels are predominantly existent in the absolute realm, the spiritual worlds, whereas the secondary relationships, hate, shock, comic, etc., are manifested in this relative world. When the Lord therefore desires to enjoy the secondary relationships with his servants, such reciprocation is brought into existence in the relative world by the desire of the Lord. When these secondary relationships are actually dovetailed with the absolute person, the result is the same as the other primary relationships. Last paragraph. Therefore, the servant living being, if at all he wants to relish any one of the above relationships, must reciprocate the same with Krishna, who is the unlimited ocean or source of all relationships. One can derive any amount of relation of a particular type from that resource simply by such reciprocation with Krishna. An ancient book of wisdom called the Gopal Tapani Upanishad directs us, therefore, that Krishna is the supreme fountainhead or origin of all relations, which is also confirmed in the Vedas. One should therefore always meditate upon Krishna to derive a particular type of relationship, according to one's choice and under the proper direction of the spiritual master. So, might have been a little intellectual, a little heady, but in essence, we have the relationships in this world, but they're temporary. Even if you have the perfect parent or the perfect wife, husband, etc., they're temporary. And if for no other reason than that, they cause suffering. The separation causes suffering. But most of us, we have a saying where we might have sweet rice tonight, rice pudding. And if anybody accidentally some sand gets in the pudding, when you eat the pudding, the grit of that sand just ruins the whole thing. So for most of us, there are challenges, there are miseries that are inherent in the relationship in and of itself, not even take into account that it will be temporary. And the reason being, because relationship is really between two of the same kind, two identical species. Krishna is the eternal person, we're an eternal person. Krishna is full of spiritual knowledge, we are full of spiritual knowledge. Krishna is the fountainhead, full embodiment, personification of spiritual happiness, and we partake of that happiness. It is within us. We are of the same nature. And with that relationship, we can enjoy or we can realize love. When we try to, everybody knows, I mean, I'm dating myself, but men are from Mars and women are from Venus. We're two different species. That's a fact. I've given talks at different wedding ceremonies before, and just from practical experience, I try to make it real and practical, be myself. I'll say, ladies, here's one tip. If you get this down, and I know it's going to be really, really, really hard, but if you will tell the dummy what you want, instead of expecting us to know what's wrong and what we, you know, how we can solve the problem, etc. If you will tell us what you want, any decent husband who has any appreciation and love for you will do their best to fulfill that desire. It just exemplifies that we're different species. And I hope that the married couples amongst us can resonate with that. Communication is a big part of making the dance work. Two trying from both sides. So anyway, you're not going to get it with a pet. There's something, you're not even going to, what to speak of inanimate objects. You get some pleasure. There's some distraction. There's some forgetfulness of the constant miseries of the backache or, the headache, the anxiety of I got to pay my taxes, et cetera, et cetera. But we're looking for love and we're looking for happiness that has no end. And we're actually looking for the pleasure that simply increases and comes in ways of variegated activities and tastes or emotions. And that's to be found in relationship with Krishna. One spiritual teacher said, his name being Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he said that in this world, a mother loves her son, even if the son is full of faults and doesn't have any good qualities. Generally, the mother will love that son irregardless. Even more so, and the example was given of the pleasure of receiving the cooling, soothing effulgence of the moon on a full moon night. Now, it's a little tough for us who live in SanDiego to understand that analogy. But if you get away from the city, if you get in the desert and you can see the Milky Way at night, and you get out there on a full moon night and bathe in the effulgence, the moon rays, it is so pleasing, it is so soothing, it is so enlivening. And he said, the mother has so much love and appreciation, even more so than the feeling of bathing in those soothing moon rays. My wife, when I shared that with her, she had to smile because my son's now 26 or so. And, it all comes around. I put my mother through such a grind. When I was a teenager and I didn't have a father at home, oh my goodness, did I give her a rough time. Single parenting. At a certain point I realized, try and hit me with the bell. Try. One time I took it out of her hand and said, that's it. No more spankings. I know I'm dating myself. That's not done anymore. But, that line was crossed by me. At that point, then, I was just an arrogant little snot. And I mistreated her in so many ways, disrespected her in so many ways. And that went on for some years. But you grow out of it. So we've gone a bit through some of that cycle with our son. So she had to smile when she heard that. Well, just imagine what it would be like. Krishna is he possesses all qualities in infinity. He possesses love. He possesses love. He possesses mercy. He possesses kindness. There's no shortcoming in him whatsoever. To know Krishna is to love Krishna. His very name means all attractive. In any way in which you approach him, as Srila Prabhupada said, when your heart begins to, through spiritual practice, to become unconditioned and to become purified, you come to a point where you start feeling an attraction towards a relationship of service with Krishna. And in that relationship, at this point, to try and understand how much pleasure, how much fulfillment is in that relationship, we really don't have a clue. But he is the person from whom all emotions and all qualities come from in full, and he is waiting, he is anxious to just bathe us in loving reciprocation with all the qualities and desire that he has at his command. All he wants to see is a little love from us. Now, here in this world, that means there's some do's and do nots, meaning he likes us to do some things, and he really wishes we wouldn't do others because the things he doesn't want us to do cause us pain. They keep us in ignorance. They bind us to the cycle of birth and death, of repeatedly having to try and learn the lesson that you're not going to enjoy, you'll not be satisfied through the senses of this body or the gymnastics of the mind. It doesn't happen. The happiness isn't outside, it's inside on the spiritual platform in the relationship with Krishna. And if one enters into a relationship of parenthood with Krishna, oh my goodness, there's so much intimacy in that. We have examples of the activities of the Lord when he descended and manifested his spiritual form for all to see, along with his eternal associates, and engaging in the activities that they carry on in the absolute world, the absolute realm. This happened some thousands of years back. It's recorded in our books of wisdom, recorded and passed down in a line of teachers who have to meet the criteria that I'm not going to add anything to these teachings, and I'm not going to subtract or edit anything out of them. I'm going to accept them as they are, embrace them, practice them, realize them, and then share it. Once you have a taste of this nectar that's to be had in lovingly serving Krishna, you automatically want to share with others. That's the nature of love. When you have reawakened your loving relationship with Krishna, then everything else falls into place. It's like the piece of the puzzle, the corner piece or whatever, where all the other pieces fit into place. Because everyone is dear to Krishna. He loves everyone equally. I don't care how degraded you are, how evil you are, how much you're misusing your independence that he's given us. He sticks with us. He loves us. He hasn't thrown us away. He's just waiting to assist us in turning back to him in a loving relationship. And so, forgive me. I let my mind wander. I'm happy to see you, Mr. Prakash. Hare Krishna. That loving relationship with Krishna, it will fulfill one. I did lose that train of thought, so I'll try to pick up another train. It will fulfill one. The intimacy of the parent with the child, we can't imagine. Krishna, he has different expansions. It's not that he reciprocates with every person, every living entity in the same way. He has inconceivable abilities, and he can be at more than one place at the same time. He could be sitting here, And he can be sitting in the heart of all living entities as he does. He's absolute. There's no restrictions on him whatsoever of time, space, or anything. He controls them all. They're all subordinate to him. They come from him. He's the controller and the enjoyer of all his energies. They're for his pleasure. And he's trying to share them with... that's what I was going to say. So one who loves Krishna, everything falls into place. Everyone is dear to Krishna. And thus when you love Krishna, you automatically love everybody else. There is no exploitation. You don't kick the dog. You don't begrudge somebody wanting to get a better lifestyle and come into my country. I'm just using an example that just came to mind. I'm not trying to make statements here, politically speaking. But I'm saying the concept of borders, of countries, there is no my, except I am Krishna's and Krishna is mine. That's the spiritual absolute reality. This body, if it was mine and it was really mine, you couldn't take it away from me. It's just like a car. If you don't pay the payments and they come out to repossess it, what can you say? That's my car. No, it's not. So we may think we own the house or we may think we own the body, but no, it is Krishna's. There's never a time that he's not in control of it, that it's not his. He created it, and it's meant for his service. Everything is meant for his enjoyment. And the foundational understanding of Krishna consciousness that it is that everyone and everything has a relationship with Krishna. And when you develop your love or your service attitude towards Krishna, then automatically, to please him, you will direct that love and service attitude to everyone else. If not, you are only speaking words, and you're only at best aspiring to be pleasing in your activities and in your thoughts and words to Krishna. So it is elevated topics. It is a high bar to meet. But it's practical and it is accessible. It can be done if one sets it as a priority in one's life and one is given the guidance and the advice of one who possesses love for Krishna. If you read these books that our teacher has took years, he slept 2 to 3 hours a night so he could get up at 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning, chant Hare Krishna for an hour or so, and then start translating these ancient books of wisdom. He sacrificed so much. Why? He wasn't on a head trip, a fame trip, or this or that. We aren't known as the Srila Prabhupada movement like so many other yoga movements, etc. We're the Hare Krishna movement. This movement is for Krishna's pleasure. We glorify and serve Krishna, and that's all he wanted to do, was to make us happy by bringing us into the family, helping us understand that reality. We all have an eternal relationship with Krishna, and that relationship is based on service. If you say, I love you, and you don't engage in activities to please that person, that's just lip service. There's no meaning to it whatsoever. This is the standard we give to the understanding of I love you. And then the activities of service and reciprocating with Krishna, what's the fruit? What's the result? At some point, your love for him will be reawakened. He's just anxious, eager. It's just like there's one quote. If you give anything to Krishna, this is from Sudama Vipra in the Krishna book. And it says, Srila Prabhupada wrote, that's not the note, yellow note, that if you give to Krishna, just by that singular act, Krishna will reward you 1,000,000 times over. 1,000,000 times over. And a number is just put on it to help you understand. It's inconceivable how much Krishna wants us to be happy, how much he wants to take us out of the suffering of identifying with this body and this exploited world. It's inconceivable. It's unlimited. But if you are a giver to Krishna, you will never lose. You will never be exploited by Krishna. And you can't say that, practically speaking, about any other relationship, at least in this world. because it's all about you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. Before I understood, a week or so ago, I was a little slow on the uptake, that this was Mother's Day, I was thinking about talking about how everything in this world is a lie. It's a lie. We're not this body. History is all a lie written by the victors. It's a lie that you eat this food and it will make you happy. No, the additives and this and that they put in it will slowly but surely make your body unhealthy. I mean, I could just go in a million different directions with this. It's a lie. Krishna doesn't lie. He's straight up with us. He says, I'm the supreme enjoyer. I'm your father. And if you'll just come to me and reciprocate with me, offer what you consider to be dear in your life, dear to you. If you will share with me, I gave it to you, but if you will share with me, then I will reward you unlimitedly. And isn't that the way a parent, a mother is with the child? I went to Trader Joe's, and I love Trader Joe's. Won't waste time on that. But I went to Trader Joe's, and I bought a dozen roses, and dummy that I was, I waited till this morning to go, so the pickings were pretty thin. I took the dozen roses home to my wife with a card, and when I took the plastic off of the roses, every single one of the green leaves fell off, and the petals on the roses, they just all fell off. I go, God, I got rooked. It was a lie. I got cheated. Krishna doesn't lie or cheat. And this may sound like a curveball, but even if he did, you would experience unlimited happiness in being the recipient of his cheating you. And I say that because he's not bound by rules. What rules him is his love for us. And he will do anything, break his own word. Morals, that's not even an issue. It's like the king can do no wrong. That's old school England or what have you. He can't do wrong. The purpose of all of reality is for his enjoyment. But in terms of morals or this or that, he'll throw those out the window in just a heartbeat to give pleasure to his servants. Because the goal of all rules, the goal of everything in life, ultimately is to bring us to the point of reawakening our loving relationship with Krishna. And he's so sweet. The form that we worship, as I said, he doesn't reveal himself in the same fashion with all peoples, all cultures, etc. No, it's only one person, the Supreme Person. But he reveals himself in so many ways. Well, as Krishna, this is Krishna at home with his hair let down. We're not worshiping God primarily as the creator. That's God at work. He's not Atlas bearing the burden on heavy shoulders, bent shoulders. He does it effortlessly just by desire, and it's taken care of by his energies and his servants, creating, maintaining, destroying universes. But that's Krishna at work. Reciprocation with Krishna as the creator, as the maintainer, as the annihilator, you're going to have awe. You're going to have reverence. There will be some fear of God. Because you know he's absolute and his will be done, and I'm subordinate to him. And if you accept that reality, you don't have to, but when you do, then you realize I've got to conform. It's in my best interest. So this isn't Krishna. I said his realm is one of love. In Vrindavan, where Krishna lives, in the absolute realm, his parents, his servants, they don't even think of him as God. They simply think of him as their boy, their tender little boy, who if I don't feed, if I don't correct when he does something naughty, if I don't protect him, provide for him, he will suffer. They're not even feeling that they're equal to God or subordinate to God. They're feeling that they are the one providing for he who provides for all living entities. This is the love, the relationship that Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj, his father, served the Lord in. And he has his friends. and he has his servants, and he has his girlfriends. The relationships of love, other books of wisdom, they don't know about it, they don't talk about it. If they do have some vague understanding, they don't go into the depths of the details in exacting, unlimited ways. The time allotted to me, I just can't go into too extensively. But Krishna, those who worship him with awe and reverence, as we have to in the beginning, he's the creator. He's the omnipotent, omniscient, supreme person. We have to have that respect to get us in line, to control our senses, to control our minds, to direct our life and all that we have in a way that reconnects us with him. But you come to a point in your spiritual life, if you follow this process of Krishna consciousness, where the opulence of God, the control of God, becomes eclipsed, and it becomes covered by the sweetness of Krishna. The unlimited sweetness. It's not that for heaven's sake, our Lord, Krishna, we refer to him as Giridhari. And if you look in any of the four corners, you'll see Krishna lifting a mountain with his little finger of the left hand. He's right-handed. Left hand. When he was 7 years old. He floats planets in space. Who can imagine how much they weigh? But it was nothing for him to lift a mountain for the pleasure of his devotees, to protect them from these torrential hurricanes and storms and hailstorms, etc., etc. He was happy to do it. It gave him great pleasure, and of course it pleased his devotees to no end. So the love causes the Lord to put aside any absorption in his being the supreme, and he subjugates himself. He makes himself subordinate to his parents. He makes himself as an equal to his friends. His friends will wrestle, they'll play tag, they'll play all the games that children do. When he loses, sometimes he has to carry his friend on his shoulders. Piggy bank. So many wonderful pastimes. In Kartik, we always have the pastime of Mother Yasoda. Krishna, when he was like 2 or 3 years old, he loves dairy. The family business is taking care of cows. They love their cows. There's no abuse of cows. The cows give unlimited milk. Any cow that knows they're not going to be slaughtered, and any cow that is taken care of with affection, with love, I'll use that word, Krishna's cows, offering the milk to Krishna for his pleasure and for taking of the milk that he is honored, that he is blessed. Those cows will give so much more milk than regular dairy cows. We know that from experience, from our own farms. So Krishna's family business in the spiritual absolute realm, and when he manifests his pastimes here, is he takes care of the cows. And when he was 2 or 3 years old, he would toddle on over to the neighbors' homes, the other women who also had parental feelings of love and affection for him, and they would feed him butter. They were happy to give him yogurt and butter and milk sweets and what have you. And being a little 2 or 3 year old, this is how he's manifesting himself in his pastimes here in this world. When they weren't looking, then he'd go and steal the butter. Now, everyone teaches their child, don't steal, please. It's not yours. Don't take it. It belongs to somebody else. But he would, as a naughty little child, 2, 3 years, he'd steal every chance he could. He got a great kick out of it. He loved it. And the mothers, the neighbors, they were happy to feed Krishna the butter. And, he'd have it all over his darkish, rain cloud, spiritual colored body. And, white butter on his darkish face. And he'd go home, and then the neighbors would come and say, Mother Yasoda, your child's been stealing our butter. What? Why would he do that? We have so much butter at home. No, he's been stealing our butter. And then she would chastise him. God, chastising him. Why do you do this? Krishna, we have so much butter. Why do you do? Mother, I didn't steal any butter. I wasn't there. What are you talking about? You got butter all over your mouth. No, Mom, it's a misunderstanding. And then she would chastising. And so he'd go, okay. And he wouldn't go to the neighbor's house for a couple, 3 days. And then the mothers, the neighboring women, they would come to Mother Yasoda's house and say, what's wrong? Is something wrong with Krishna? He hasn't come to our home. Hasn't asked for butter. Is he okay? And they would back and forth like this. Just everything he did would elicit more loving reciprocations from his devotees. And then he has his friends. It's a forest. It's a paradise. And they're the monkeys. And he plays with monkeys. And the monkeys follow along with him. And when he can, he'll steal the butter and he'll feed it to all the monkeys. So the monkeys really like him. They're there to get in all the fun. And one time, a neighbor came over and said, Krishna's stealing our butter. And Mother Yasoda, what? Picked up a stick to go over to the house to see, and sure enough, there he was, standing on a grinding mortar. The butter was in a pot up high, so no animal could get to it or what have you, and he was in there, and he was throwing it out to all the monkeys. There's butter all over the floor, and the monkeys see the Mother Yasoda before Krishna does, and they just immediately, they scatter like anything. They're out of there, and then Krishna turns around, and then he sees Mother Yasoda, and she's got a stick. She's looking very unhappy. So he gets down and tries to run away. Now, when he's running, Mother Yasoda, she's a little angelic. She's a little fatty in stature, in appearance. So she's running after her child. But he's zigzagging, giving her all kinds of, maneuvers and getting out of her way. And she's starting to sweat running after him. The flowers in her hair, scatter, and she's starting to pant. And all the neighborhood women are just loving it. Look at Krishna. Look at Yasoda. And finally, Mother Yasoda, she's running, but then she looks at the feet of the Lord. And we can't comprehend this at our level of devotion, our lack of understanding. But Krishna is beautiful in all respects, including his feet. And she saw his feet, and she just kind of like zoned in on them. And at that point, Krishna turned around and he said, oh, my mother's getting tired. And he slowed down, and then he let his mother catch him. He said, Mother, why do you have a stick? What's wrong? Don't, please, don't spank me. Don't hurt me, please. And so she had him, she had him caught, and she took him over and said, okay, you little rascal, I'm going to keep you from doing your mischief. And she got a rope, and she tried tying Krishna. It wasn't big enough. Then she got another rope, put it together, and tried tying him, and it wasn't big enough. Then she got another rope. Asked her certain. She got all the rope in the house, and it still wouldn't tie together. You have to understand, this is not an ordinary little child. This is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's not going to let you catch him unless he wants to be caught. He doesn't allow himself to be caught by anyone who doesn't love him. You can't demand, show me God. It doesn't work that way. Krishna is known by love and devotion, period. If you engage in that exchange, he'll reveal himself to you. And just to show everybody, that's the reality. He's unconquerable. He can't be controlled. But if he allows himself, then finally when he saw Mother Yasoda really in a tiff, and the gopis are laughing, Mother Yasoda actually starts laughing, and oh my goodness. Finally he lets her tie up, and she's thinking, oh, thank goodness. And Krishna's like, oh, don't tie me up. And then he looks at his friends on the side, because they had run away too, because they saw she was mad. And he kind of smiles like, don't hurt me, Mom. Don't leave me tied up. And he's looking at her like with these little tears, false tears in his eyes. Please, please let me go. And the boys are thinking, oh my God, we got to let him go. Our friend Krishna's tied up. So anyway, there's so many pastimes like this, and it just gets better and better the more we develop our relationship with Krishna. The pastimes become sweeter and sweeter. They reveal the spiritual reality that they are. To end up that pastime, the friends go, crawl down, crawl down. He does. He's tied to the mortar falls down, then he crawls, and he gets stuck in two Arjun trees. They fall down, and the story just goes on and on. The pastimes, the activities of Krishna are all attractive. We hear them, we repeat them, we encourage you to read the book so that you can replace the hackneyed attempts to enjoy in the temporary relationships that are fraught with difficulty of this world, please try chanting this Hare Krishna mantra. Please try to acquaint yourself with who Krishna is. I promise you, if you do that, you will be glad you did. I think I'll end there for time's sake. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, my friend. Speak up for the... I wondered if somebody was going to pick up on what Srila Prabhupada said. I didn't say it. I read what Srila Prabhupada said. You want me to read it again? Yeah, it was shocking, wasn't it? I could share my understanding, my conviction. I'm not a liberated soul, and Krishna hasn't revealed that inconceivable reality. I have an eternal relationship with Krishna, but that relationship is of service. There's no doubt about that. The identity of every living entity is one of service to Krishna. Jivera Sarupoi Nityara Krishna Das. All living entities are the nature of Brahman. This is Bhagavad Gita, and the nature of the self is the Atma. Krishna, we left, well, I don't want to take up too much time because it talks about prior to being, why are we here? Where did we come from, etc. My understanding is we have an eternal relationship with Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says, back to home, back to Godhead. Sometimes people get thrown by the fact, well, it says if you go there, you'll never return, but we're here in the first place. Purely, with simply the desire to serve and please Krishna in his names. Non-different from his name, Krishna is Hare Krishna. If you have that purity in chanting, then Krishna will reveal his form to you. It's the first way in which he manifests or begins the reawakening of the relationship. And as you continue to chant, then his qualities that I was saying are so super sweet, they manifest. And then his associates. And at this point, you're starting to be qualified to see within your heart the eternal spiritual activities that go on in the spiritual world. And at that point, you begin to, it is revealed to you how you want to serve Krishna, what your relationship is. Neutral, servant, friend, parent, or lover. It is revealed to everyone. Like one time, a disciple, Bhakti True Swami, asked Srila Prabhupada, well, since you will be leaving soon, who will be there to teach us, to reveal to me what my relationship with Krishna is? He said, don't worry, I will reveal everything to you. The relationship with the spiritual master, all that we need, they are dedicated to bringing us back to our eternal relationship with Krishna. That much I can say. I hope it has some satisfaction in your mind. Comments? Give us one. Pick the best of the two. And speak loudly, please, Udaya Prabhu. Right. In actuality, the residents of his kingdom, they know everything belongs to Krishna. Everything they have, including themselves, are simply meant for the service of Krishna, the pleasure of Krishna. They're happy when he steals from them. Stealing is the common usage of the language, and that's what they call it also. The language comes from the spiritual world. Everything comes from Krishna in the spiritual world. So even though you say he stole, they're super happy he stole from him. And we worship Krishna for stealing from them. But you are perfectly right. One is ras, or relationship and love. And the other way in which you're analyzing it right now is called tattva, or the philosophy. The philosophy is that, I think it's my son, but it's Krishna's son. I think she's my wife, but I'm the adulterer. The wife is the servant of Krishna eternally. she is his maidservant. But if we enter into a relationship of trying to help each other surrender and serve him, then that's how you go the distance. That's the tattva, that's the philosophy. So I appreciate you pointing that out. Anything else, my friends? You've been very patient with me. I'm sorry if I was too windy. And thank you for your attention, for your company, and Hare Krishna. So we'll have some more kirtan, and shortly thereafter, a nice feast.